Hey guys, I'm Voilen, and in today's video I will show you how you can build your Godot project with GitHub Workflows. Now, GitHub Workflows is a little bit difficult to get into, but it's actually quite simple once you get the hang of things. So yeah, let's get started. Let's quickly go over what a GitHub Workflow does, what we will actually make today. And that is basically this. So if you open this, you can see your exported projects. I only export for Linux. I disabled Windows for this build. But you can basically build the executables that you will send out to your users, to your players, all automatically by using GitHub Workflows. So to run a workflow, you press here and then you can select certain things. I won't show how to do the select build target. We will make two separate scripts for that. But I will show you how to do this so you can select exporting for Linux, Windows, or both. For the people who want to have access to the source code is available on Ko-fi for my members. So this is a member only thing. I also have them available on itch.io, and that is for a small fee. The link for that will be in the description. But basically, source code available on my Ko-fi page. Thanks again to all my Ko-fi supporters for supporting me. And for all Ko-fi supporters right now, my shop is basically members only and everything is free for members. But next up, what are the limitations of GitHub Actions? First of all, for open repositories, so not private ones, it's free to use and there are no limitations. But for private repositories, which you will probably be running if you're working on a game or something that you're trying to sell, then there are some limitations, but not in a way that will be too bad for you. So basically, with GitHub Free, you have access to storage of 500 megabytes and 2000 minutes per month. If you look at this, this one takes around 22 minutes to build, but that is also because there are some extra things with this one going on because I am compiling Godot from scratch in this build. That's not what we will be going over today. Normally, a normal build should take around 5 minutes for both Linux and Windows for a small game. So more than enough per month, minutes per month for using this. So don't worry about your repositories being private. You will have enough build minutes to actually compile your program multiple times in a week. Okay, and let's start. This is my Godot project folder. So we have test folder. Over here you would put other files. If I open Godot Light, by example, the master branch, I have my assets, my bin folder, source, the GDExtension. So this is how it normally would look like, but to keep it simple, this is my project structure. I always have the main folder in which I put all files, and then my source folder, which is my Godot project itself. Now, to actually start with GitHub projects, you will need to have this as a GitHub repo. So if this is not a GitHub repo yet, if you don't see this Git folder, first of all, press Ctrl H, maybe it's hidden. If this is not here, make your project into a Git repo, else this won't work. Next up, we will need to create a new folder and we will call this .github. Inside of this folder, we create a new folder and we call this workflows. Now we enter this folder and now we create a new document. I will create an empty file called build debug.yml because it's a YAML file. We copy paste this one, we rename it to build release. So we have two files. We have our build.debug, build debug and build release. Next up, open these files into your editor of choice. I will use NeoVim because that's my editor of choice. And then here we need to add, basically the code to let GitHub know what we want to happen. And first of all, before we go further, this is a project that I'm trying to export. So it's basically something simple. So something shows on screen that it's actually working. So yeah, let's quickly go over that. Okay, and next up, we need our codes. First of all, we need a name. I will call this debug build. And next up, we need a run name. So the debug build, what this all does, if we go into here, name is this. So video editor builds. And then the run name is basically this text. Goes and video editor GDExtension build. You can change this to whatever you want. I will call this building debug version. Don't worry right now about the missing property of jobs. We still need a couple of lines before we can start with jobs. So first of all, when do we want the project to run? So you type on, then workflow dispatch. This will basically, you can now create workflows that are manually triggered with the new workflow dispatch event. You will then see a run workflow button in the actions tab. So basically what I showed you before. If you want to look into the different options, for example, to get your project to export every single pull request, you can do this. You can change this. Next up, we need inputs because we want some variables. We will call our first input job targets, and the description will be select the platform. So for platform, we're basically talking about which operating system. This will be a required thing to set, so we set this as true. And next up, we set the default to Linux. You can set this to whatever you want. I set this to Linux. You can set this to both if you always want to compile for both. The only reason why you would set this default tag is when this is not workflow dispatch and that it runs automatically. Next up, we need to set the type, and we set this to not string but choice. And next up, we have options, and we will have Linux as an option. We also need Windows, and let's also set both. And next up, we need to set some environment variables so we can use them throughout the whole script. So we type env, and remember, we cannot use spaces in the paths and names, use underscores instead. If you do want to use spaces because of your folder structure, try to use escape characters by a backward slash and such. Next up, we set the Godot version. Which Godot version do you want to use to build your project with? Right now, this only works with Godot 4.3 and higher. For lower versions, there is a thing that you can do to make it work anyway, but it's a little bit more finicky. Next up, we need our Godot project location. So for me, it's in the source folder and project.godot. So for this, you need to go to your main folder, your main project structure. So src, source, and then project.godot. You need to type in the path to this file. Next up, export folder for Linux. Where do you want your export to save? Now, the export folders are not that important. They should just be empty folders or folders that don't exist. That way there is no confusion with the exports of files being included that should not be there. For me personally, I often create a bin folder to begin with, type a Linux folder, capital, and inside of these folders you can just put a empty documents.git keep. This way, if you try to make a commit to your repo, you can see this file and this folder will keep existing even though this file is completely empty. It's just to keep the folder structure intact, but you don't need to do this. That's just how I do things. So export folder for Linux, and of course you also need for Windows. You can name these whatever you want. You don't need to have bin. You can just create this inside of your main folder like this. I just prefer to put it in a bin folder because that's how I compile for my personal system as well. It works, so why change it? And next up, the application name. Again, this is Gozen. You can change this to whatever you want. Potato Cannon or whatever you want. Just make certain, again, spaces or use the escape characters. Yeah. Okay, and next up we need some jobs. In here you can put all the jobs that you want. We will only have a build job. You can have them separately for Godot, for Linux and Windows. I'm just going to combine those two together by using this choice variable. You can choose in how you do this, but it doesn't really matter too much for this specific script. So we will call this build, and it runs on Ubuntu latest. You can choose a Windows machine. I choose Ubuntu latest just because, well, Linux, I am a Linux user. I don't really know how Windows works. But Ubuntu latest, I don't really think Ubuntu is too great for software. That's just my personal opinion. So I use a container with the image Arch Linux and we choose the latest. Next up, we need some steps. How do we want to compile our project? Well, first of all, we need to set some extra variables. And that's just because of the way that I built the applications, how I want them to be exported. By example, I would prefer to have the date inside of them. So I basically use an echo date and then year month, and day, and I put that into GitHub environment. Same for the main folder. And for main folder, I use pvd, and yeah, I'll soon go into why this is necessary. It's a Godot thing. After setting these variables, we need to install some dependencies. So because we use the Arch Linux container, we use pacman. We do no confirm because else you need to type in a password or press yes. And we need git, bash, yasm, python, pip. We need sconce and gcc and divot utils and make and such if you are working with GDExtensions. If you don't work with GDExtensions, don't worry about these. These are just here in case people actually need them. But we do need wget, unzip, tar, and mingw. Mingw is needed on Linux to be able to compile for Windows. Next up, if you have Git submodules, you will need this piece of code. If you don't have any submodules, you don't need this, but it's better to have there just in case. Simple code, it's basically a GitHub action. You can find these actions on GitHub. So if you go to github.com/actions, you basically get to this place here where you can find all the GitHub actions that you could use in your workflow scripts. So simple. And next up, we need to prepare Godot. By the way, these names are all things that you will see inside of your builds. So if we open this one, by example, and we press on the Linux build, we will see these are all the names. So all the names that you see in here, like prepare Godot, those are actually like the names that you set here. So for prepare Godot, we need to run, and we use this kind of line character here because we will add multiple commands, because else you can only add one command. So we first need to wget, so basically get the actual Godot executable. So we wget -q -0 and the name of the file of how do we want to have the output to be. And we will call it Godot underscore linux.zip. Then the URL, github.com, Godot engine, Godot builds, releases, download, and then we use our first environment variable. So basically the Godot version. Because the way that it is set up, this is always the same. The structure of their URLs are always the same, so we can just change this, and we have access to the stable build. If you want to use a non-stable build, just remember to change this. And then again, Godot v and then the Godot version, stable underscore linux.9090. So basically the x86 underscore 64, that is a Linux executable. We need a Linux executable because we are running Arch Linux. Next up, we need to unzip the file that we just downloaded. And we need another wget -q and then -o again for defining the output. So Godot export templates.tpz. And we basically get this from almost the exact same URL. So github.com, Godot engine, Godot builds, releases, downloads, the Godot version, stable. It's basically almost the exact same except for we add export templates.tpz. This is the only difference. Next up, we need to make the folder of where we want these export templates to be saved at. mkdir -p. The -p is just to create all the parent folders as well of the folder that we're creating. If they already exist, nothing will happen and it will just create an empty folder. So we need the Godot version again and .stable. After that, we unzip the Godot export templates.tpz inside of the folder that we just created. But for some reason, I ran into a small issue with this. My fix is basically to move everything from the templates folder inside of the main folder. Because inside of this zip folder, there's basically another folder called templates, and yeah, that's how it exports. I have not found a way to do this, so there's just one extra command. And next up, we need the command sed. Because of, if you export your project, you probably want to change the version number. I use the date variable that we set here, so basically it will have the date minus debug. Quite simple. And what this does is, if you have this set to something, by example, today's date, oops, we're not in the future yet, 08, oops, and 21. So inside of the project Godot file, you see this then, config version nanny nanny. So yeah, basically what we're doing in this function, we basically search for this string and we change the value to the date with debug next to it. This is a helpful thing. You can change this to whatever you want, but to keep the version up to date without having to type it manually in here, you could have an extra input. For example, the way that you will do that is project version. Whoops, I can't type today. Project version. And then we set require to true again. And we will set the type to string. And that's basically all that you need to do. And then every time when you compile your version through GitHub Workflows, you will have to fill in this value. But this is how we set up Godot on our container for our GitHub Workflow, so we can successfully export the projects. So first up, let's prepare the build for Linux. So the debug build for Linux. For this, we need to make certain that we actually have the job selected for Linux. So this thing here. Because if you don't do this, it will run every single time, no matter what you select here. So we need an if statement. So basically github.events.input.jobTarget. That's the name that we chose here. And this has to be the same as Linux, or it has to be both. So this is an OR thing for people who only know GDEscript. This is basically OR. Next up, we need a run together with line thing again, because we will have a couple of commands in here because Linux. So first of all, we need to create the folder. So again, our make dir -p. So we actually create all the folders, even if they already exist or if they don't exist, like the parent folders. Next up, our Godot executable, which we got from here. This is also always named the same way. We need to add the / here, because else the operating system container won't be able to know that this is an executable. So Godot v, then again the Godot version /stable Linux. Again, if you don't use a stable version, change this. I would probably not recommend not using stable builds if you want to export your project to actual users, but yeah, to each their own. And next up, we use this import. This is a 4.3 feature. Without this, you will need to add a timeout and then a certain amount of time. We're not going to do that. We're using 4.3, so we can use import. Because when you open your Godot project, you actually create all the import files that tell Godot how to use the resources. So right now, there's only the icon. For bigger projects, there will be a lot more. So if you take a look in GDExtension, So if you take a look inside of Gozen Lite in the source folder, Godot folder imported, there is a little bit more. But yeah, so we need this import because else projects won't be able to export because it will complain about files not existing. And then we need to define the project file location. We already set this variable in here. So src project.godot. We want this to be quiet, headless, headless mainly because we don't want the UI to open because this will be running in a server. And then we want to export debug for Linux. And we need the main folder variable here, which is basically pwd. If I run this from my main folder, this will basically tell me where my command line actually is present at the moment. So it's at home and voiden. So after that main folder, we add a slash, don't forget the slash. Then environment.export folder Linux, we set this one before, and also slash application name. Plus, because this is for the Linux export, we need .x86 underscore 64. So this is a long line, but yeah, just know this works. Don't mess too much with this unless you want extra options. We will do the release version of this script later on. It's a lot easier, so yeah. Next up, we need to actually add permissions to run the project. So a debug version will come with an sh file, which is basically a script that you can run from the terminal. Yeah, that automatically opens the terminal with your application to more quickly debug it, because it's still a debug build and debug export. So we need to take the export folder Linux. In here, file will have been created .sh. We need to give this the executable permissions. Next up, we also need to give the .x86_64 file executable permissions. But then there is one big problem. If you export for Linux through GitHub Workflows, executables lose their permission. So what we've set here will become invalid. So to fix that, we need another step called start files. You can name this to whatever you want. We don't actually need these quotes here. So if job target is Linux, again, we need to make certain that this does not, especially after this thing, if this is blocked off because we don't run for Linux, this should not run, because else your whole job will just crash and stop working. So we need to use tar. This is just another kind of zip file. Then this will be the name of the tar itself, of the zip file. So we have the application name underscore Linux debug underscore and then the date. I like to have the date here, so when I download all the executable, well, all the zip files, I know which one was generated at what time. And what do we need to put into the zip folder? The export folder Linux. Next up, we upload the GDExtension artifacts. This is needed because else if you go to your summary of your build, you won't have this here. So these are basically called artifacts. They're basically the finished results in our case. So this is just some very standard code. Again, we need the if statement to check if it's actually running on Linux or not. We use the action upload artifacts version 4, so alt v4. This is needed because there are multiple versions of upload artifact, but I think v4 is the only one that's maintaining support in the very near future. And then we add with name of what you want your file to be called. And the finished zip file. This is called .tar, but this will actually be a .zip file. This will, yeah, basically, for some reason, GitHub zips everything. So even if you create a tar file, but because we created the tar file first and the tar file will be inside of the zip file, we will maintain permissions for our executables. Then the parts of what we need to zip, it's basically, yeah, the zip file itself, because the zip file, if you look in here, we basically created this inside of the main folder. And next up, building for Windows is actually quite easy. Again, you need the if statement, just change it to Windows. For run, we make the directory for export folder Windows. Again, all the variables that we set in here. And then very similar to the Linux one, to the Linux line here, Godot v version stable Linux, because even though we compile for Windows, we still use the Linux executable, import Godot project location, quite headless. The only thing that we need to change in here is we need to export debug for Windows and use the export folder Windows and .exe. That's the only change that you need to make in here. And then next up, and the last thing that you need to do is uploading GDExtension artifact debug. You can name this whatever you want, but don't forget the if statements. For this, however, you need to make certain, because this is not a tar file, if you don't put the slash here, this will not work. It won't find any file called Windows. We need to add a slash here, so this part, the upload artifact, knows that we are intending to compile to zip the folder and not a file called Windows. So yeah, after you've done that, you can quickly save this. So you push the build debug to GitHub, and we can call this whatever we want. So build debug workflow for our commit message. By the way, I'm using LazyGit. You can use whatever tool you want or just a command line. We push this change. If we go into here, we will see a recent commit got pushed, build debug workflow. If you see this, it's good to go. So refresh the workflow page. So to get to this page, we basically go to actions. In here, yeah, my previous runs became visible for some reason. We press run workflow and we can select our platform. So basically this is what we put in here. So let's just compile for Linux for now, or for Windows. Let's do both. Run workflow. It will take a good 5 seconds for it to pop up. After it pops up, and if it doesn't pop up, you can always refresh page. Then you can click on here, and you have your build running. Status in progress. It will first initialize a container, set extra variables, install the dependencies. This will normally not take too long, so we're already installing dependencies after 14 seconds. From my previous test, this takes maximum 2 minutes, if even. And it's already done, it's already stopping the containers, and the build is complete. If it's complete and everything went correctly, you see the green V, and you will have your export variables in here. So one quick note, if you download this one, this will take some time, so in the meantime I'll give a little bit more of an explanation. This one only takes 1 minute 17 seconds. This is because this is a very, very minimal project. This will probably take longer. For example, for my video editor build, this takes 22 minutes, but we're also compiling the whole editor, Godot, from scratch because of GDExtensions. And the Windows build even compiles FFmpeg. So yeah, it takes a lot longer. So don't expect 1 minute and 17 seconds. This is just because this, yeah, project is kind of, well, not kind of, it is small. And when it's done downloading, you will see .tar.zip. So if you open this up, you will see the tar folder is inside. So quickly to check if everything works, we will extract everything inside of this folder. Whoops. We will need to extract this one, extract here. Then we have our bin folder, Linux, and in here you have your project file. So if you quickly run this, you'll see it's alive. So we have one more thing to do right now, because there is a little change for, well, something that needs to be changed for the release build. So what we will need to do, we copy everything. We go into our build release.yaml file. You can basically copy paste the entire script, and then we look for all the debug words. So we change this by release over here as well. Release. And right now, a lot of the things that you just need to do instead of here are, yeah, changing a release tag. So we just look for debug, and this becomes release. Next up, release. Oh, but for Linux here, the .sh file is only present in debug builds. So we need to remove this line, because else it will crash, because it cannot find the file that it's trying to give executable permissions to. Over here as well, there's another debug, so release. And just, yeah, take your time so you don't miss any. It's not too troublesome. Whoops. Release. And next up over here as well, CLI release. Okay, and when you cannot find any debug notes anymore, then normally everything is ready. Now we can also export for a release build. So we commit this quickly, build underscore release.yaml. Let's just call this build release workflow. Let's push this, and when we go to our actions, we will see our release build is over here. Now run workflow. Again, let's select both, and let's see if everything works correctly. Normally this should work correctly. So let's give this a good, well, probably 2 minutes to run. And everything compiled correctly. So yeah, basically we are done right now. And that's it. Now you can export your Godot projects with GitHub Workflows without having to use your own PC anymore. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. A big thank you again to all my Ko-fi supporters. Without them, making these type of videos would not really be possible, because then I would probably need to get a full-time job again. So yeah. And once again, you can find the source code in the description. I have it on Ko-fi and on itch.io. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.